Good afternoon and welcome to Working with Excel with Dr. Coates. This is a tutorial on how to use Excel in two different methods in order to create the graphs that are needed for experiment number 2 in general chemistry 2 labs, the freezing point depression of stearic acid in an unknown solute. So looking here, we have some data that would have been collected. This is some old data that has been previously used. So hopefully you have been able to make a graph similar to this where it just shows your raw data. And what we want to do is we want to be able to create two linear regions for this graph where we have one linear region in this area, another linear regression curve in this area, so that we can find exactly where the inflection point is and where our freezing point of stearic acid is. So for that, what I want to do is I want to interrogate the graph a little bit better. Instead of having this large y-axis, I'm going to zoom in a little bit and create a better bound. Now I have a better idea of where my first linear regression curve can be. So I'm going to say it's right about our time 0 to probably, I don't know, about 150 seconds. I don't want to go much further because then I start getting into a big curve. So what I want to do is follow the method from the protocol. I'm going to show you another method that's a little bit faster, but this is if you just want to follow straight from the experimental protocol worksheet. So first I need to insert some columns so that I can copy the data. What I'm going to do is now all I need to do is copy this temperature data twice into those areas so that I can create my two linear regression curves. I can even label this linear regression 1. This will be my linear regression area 2. And so what I want to do now is I want to add another series that allows me to do that. And so I can go into my data. So here, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to limit the y-axis for my linear regression number 1. So I said at about 150 seconds, I'm going to remove the rest of that data. Okay. My linear regression area 2, very nice flat area here. So I want it to start maybe at about 210. So I'm going to go to 210. I'm going to delete all of the data above that. Okay, so now at that point, what I can do is I can create a new graph. So I don't need to keep working in this one if I don't want to. Or I can create a brand new graph with all of these data sets. So all you would need to do is just select all of the data in these 4 columns. Or I can add the data easily into this set since it's already nice and made for me. So I'll go to Design for this chart tools. I'll go to Select Data. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, I can call it Linear Regression 1 if I want to. And my x-axis is still time. And my y is my linear regression area. Okay, at that point, you can see the orange data is in there. I can then add another series. We're going to call this linear regression area 2. And these x-axis starts at 210 and uses the temperatures associated. Oops, excuse me. Correctly. So that equals our time starting at 210. And we've got our temperatures associated with those times. So now you can see the gray data here is representing that. Pretty simple to do that. The next steps are going to be adding the linear regression curves. So at that point, I'm going to make sure that I'm only selecting the orange data. I don't want my entire data set. Okay? And so I can go to the chart options here. So my series options, I've got series 1. Now what I want to do is I want to add a trend line. I don't click this line right away so that I can go to the more options so that it brings up everything I need to know. So I'm going to display my equation on the chart. I also want to forecast because I want to see where these intersect. And so I'm going to forecast for about 100 periods. Okay, doesn't need to go that far, so I could back it off if I wanted to. But now when I'm looking here, what I actually see is that my trend line does not fit my data very well. So at that point, what I can do is I can go back to my data and I can say, I actually don't want to include 0.0. I think it's the one that's actually throwing off my trend line. At that point, once I throw out 0.0, now I get a really nice fit to my curve. It could also be this one at the end. Maybe I don't need to go all the way out to 135. I can just go to 120. Really a much better fit. And that's really what we're looking for, is a nice fit to our line. I'm going to do the same thing over here for my linear regression series 2. So I'm going to add a trend line, set my equation to the chart, and now I need to forecast it in the backwards direction so I can see that intersection. Okay, so I can forecast it back 100 periods. Now we see this nice cross right here. Okay, so you can play around with your data more like this in order to be able to see where your intersection is, or where you get the best lines, linear regressions that fit your data. Okay, sometimes you can be able to fit it to the entire curve if that works as well, by omitting points over here, and so that works. Okay. So this is the protocol that would be following the procedure in our handout. Another way to do this is to have the same data. So I'm going to share this sheet right here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to decrease my bounds a little bit so that I can focus in on the data. So now at this point, I have the same data. It looks exactly the same, and I want my graph to look just like this. What I really don't want to have to do is keep adding in these new columns. It congests this area and it gets kind of messy. So what I can do instead is, I know, like I did before, I have 3 data series. So I need 3 data series. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, and you can click directly on your data. I'm going to press Control C, or if you wanted to, you could do Home and you could do Copy and then Paste, Copy and then Paste. You can do Control C, Control V. What I've done is I've created 3 series. Prove that to yourself. We could show a legend over here. So actually it looks like I created 4 series. I have too many of them. I'm going to delete one of them. Okay, so I just deleted one of my series. Looks like I deleted the original series, and that's okay. I just only need 3 of them because I need my raw data, linear regression 1 and linear regression 2. All right, so at this point you have 3 series, but they're all in the raw data. And so at that point, what you can do is you can click on one of the data series. You can also go into this drop-down menu right here, and it shows you all of the different series if you want to. So what I could do is I could go in here and help myself out, select your data, and we can edit. This is now linear regression 1. I can edit my legend if I need to, and linear regression 2. But one of the nice features about what I'm going to show you is you don't have to go into the Select Data tab. What you can do is when you click on the data set, if you see over here, it highlighted that data. Okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm now going to set where those bounds are, where we did before. So I think it was, back to my orange, it was at 120 seconds. And I think I even got rid of that 0 second point. Okay, so now my data is in the exact same place as it was on the other graph. I just did it without having to add a new column. I can all do it from one column. I'm going to do that for the next linear regression series. So I go back, I select one of the series that has the whole data set, and I go in and I decrease it. Okay. So I think we were at like 210 in the other graph, but this is again when you can start using things. Okay, and at that point, you know how to add your trend lines for each one of these elements. So you know how to do that as seen in the previous graph, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to continue. So this is linear regression. I think that one needs to go back. My linear regression needs to go forward. Okay, I need my equations for each one of these plots, and there we go. So same method. It just keeps your table nice and clean and not having to add 2 new columns to each data set. Whatever you choose to do is up to you. So then you'll follow the procedure. Now that you have your linear regression curves, you have y equals mx plus b. For each one of the lines, you can solve for x, which gives you the time at which you have the melting point of stearic acid, okay, which will then give you the freezing point in degrees Celsius. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. And in the next video, I will show you how to do this in Google Sheets. All right. Good luck. Bye.